Tensions are continuing to rise between Iran and the West. Monday, Iran announced the arrest of 17 people accused of spying for the United States' Central Intelligence Agency. This follows the seizure of a British oil tanker by Iran's Revolutionary Guards Friday afternoon in retaliation for the ongoing detention of an Iranian tanker by the British Navy in Gibraltar. The continued escalation has some worried about the potential for war, while others are concerned about the ongoing disruption in the Strait of Hormuz, which is the world's most important waterway for oil. Approximately $500 billion in trade passes through the strait annually. The 17 arrests took place over the year up until March 2019, and some of the detainees have been sentenced to death. Iran's Ministry of Intelligence claims that all 17 people arrested confessed to spying for the CIA. The U.S. hasn't confirmed the arrest of the accused operatives, whose nationality is not known. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo appeared on Fox News Monday, saying that he couldn't directly comment on intelligence.
This isn't because of American sanctions. This is because the theocracy, the leadership in Iran, their revolutionary zeal to conduct terror around the world for now 4 decades continues.
U.S. President Donald Trump tweeted hours after the report, saying the report of Iran capturing CIA spies is totally false, zero truth, just more lies and propaganda, just like their shot-down drone put out by a religious regime that is badly failing and has no idea what to do. Their economy is dead, and it will get much worse. Iran is a total mess. The Iranian state TV published photos claiming to show CIA officers who worked with the accused spies. Without confirmation, it's hard to determine the validity of the Iranian claims. This isn't the first time Iran claimed it arrested spies for colluding with the CIA. According to the Washington Post, Iran has previously announced the identification of U.S. spy rings, including the announcement of dissolving a similar network just last month. Nevertheless, the announcement's timing assumes significance due to the months lapsing between the last arrest, combined with the ongoing escalation between Iran, the U.S., and the UK. British Prime Minister Theresa May chaired a meeting Monday to discuss what robust actions her government should take against Iran after Iran's Revolutionary Guards seized a British oil tanker from the Strait of Hormuz. The Stena Impera was accused of violating international maritime rules for colliding with a fishing boat, failing to respond to calls from the vessel, according to Iran's state-run news agency. The tanker's 23 crew members, who are Indian, Russian, Latvian, and Filipino, have been questioned but are in good health, according to the BBC and Reuters. The UK told Iran to immediately release the ship and crew. In a letter to the UN, the UK insists that the tanker was in line with international law while navigating the passage, and Iran's actions were unacceptable and highly escalatory. The seizure in the strait isn't out of the blue. Tehran warned of a possible response to the UK's piracy after the Royal Marines captured an Iranian oil tanker off the coast of Gibraltar just 2 weeks ago. According to the BBC, the Royal Marines seized the Grace 1, the Iranian oil tanker, based on evidence that it was breaching EU sanctions by carrying oil to Syria. The seizure of the British tanker happened just hours after the announcement that the Grace 1 will be held for 30 additional days, according to CNN. Iran sees the situation as tit for tat, says UK Foreign Minister Jeremy Hunt, but nothing could be further from the truth, according to the BBC. On Monday, Hunt announced that the most recent seizure was an act of state piracy, and the UK will respond by creating a European-led maritime protection mission to ensure the freedom of navigation in the strait.
If Iran continues on this dangerous path, they must accept the price will be a larger Western military presence in the waters along their coastline, not because we wish to increase tensions, but simply because freedom of navigation is a principle which Britain and its allies will always defend.
In terms of diplomacy with Iran, the UK and the US imposed strict economic and financial sanctions on Iran, which Iran's foreign minister calls economic terrorism.
They came to the Persian Gulf. Now they have to watch that they should not undermine our sovereignty, our territorial integrity, or our security. And then we won't have a war.
U.S. sanctions were reimposed in November 2018 after it withdrew from the 2015 nuclear deal earlier that year. In April 2019, the U.S. labeled Iran's military as a terrorist organization and tightened sanctions. The UK continues to recognize the 2015 nuclear deal, though if it decides to reimpose sanctions, that move would dampen any hope of preserving the nuclear deal, according to the New York Times. Furthermore, the UK and other European countries have been developing alternative trade systems that would allow Iran to bypass the US sanctions. On Monday, Hunt further separated the UK's efforts from the US's by saying that it would not be a part of the US's maximum pressure on Iran because we remain committed to the Iranian nuclear agreement, while Pompeo says it was up to the UK to take care of their tanker. The wild card is, however, that on Wednesday, the UK is getting a new prime minister who could choose an alternative plan of action. Since May, the US has blamed Iran for attacks on the tankers in the Strait, a claim which Iran denies. Furthermore, the US launched 2 cyber attacks on Iran in retaliation to an Iranian spy group and the downing of a US drone, according to CNN. Both the US and Iran claim to have been downing each other's drones. Iran shot down a US drone accused of crossing borders, though the US claims it was in international airspace. On July 18th, the US Navy downed an Iranian drone accused of using electronic jamming technology. The closest the countries have come to the brink of war was when Trump ordered a missile strike on Iran, which was called off only minutes before the launch. Besides the potential to disrupt the global oil trade, which could have major economic repercussions worldwide, the escalation and potential war could further destabilize the region. This isn't the first time the US and the UK are exerting pressure in Iran with a view to destabilize its government. In 1953, both countries orchestrated a coup to oust democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. That coup was in part a response to Mossadegh's goals of nationalizing the country's oil industry. After tensions in the late 1970s and early 80s, the US was caught secretly shipping weapons to Iran. In the early 2000s, President Bush declared Iran a part of the axis of evil during the beginning of the US's war on terrorism, which coincided with the heightened Western anxiety over Iran's civilian nuclear program. After nearly a decade of sanctions, the US and its allies reached a deal with Iran for a resolution of the nuclear issue, the same nuclear deal that Trump withdrew from only a few years later. While olive branches have been offered, the world is waiting for the next diplomatic moves to determine if the tensions will continue to rise. Now that the UK has decided to increase international maritime presence, how will Iran react? And how valid is Iran's firing bust? Will the US confirm or retaliate? These are questions that the whole of the Middle East is asking. The answers, the people in the region know, will make all the difference between war and peace.